everyone, I'm Joe from Car Jomez, and today we're doing another toy unboxing, a little bit different this time, because most of the toy unboxings I usually do are vintage figures that I happen to get through online sales, or Facebook sales, whatever the case may be, but they're usually loose figures and I'm just unboxing them from the package being sent to me from the seller. But today we're looking at a figure that is new, it's at retail now. And even though I know I'm late to the game with doing an unboxing for this figure, some people have had these up for months, but people have been asking me my thoughts on this line. So I figured, you know what? Why not do an unboxing figure? Because I've had a few of these figures come in that I had pre-ordered through Walmart, and the boxes and the packages have come kind of mangled. So even though I'm usually a mint on card collector, I'm going to let some of these breathe. But today we're looking at one figure in particular, and that is the new He-Man from Wave 1 of the Masters of the Universe Origins from Mattel. And at first, I wasn't a fan of this line. When I first heard about it, I said, oh, do we really need these figures? I mean, we just had Masters of the Universe Classics. Super 7 did a whole series on Filmation style characters, that were like variants and sculpted to look like they did in the actual Filmation cartoon. Do we really need an Origins line that was going to be based off the original figures and just updated with some modern amenities towards our action figures? And I really didn't think I needed it. But the biggest thing for me is the fact that I love Masters of the Universe, and I'm ecstatic to have Masters of the Universe figures at retail in 2020, and I want to support the line. That way we can still get Masters branded products out for as long as I live, I hope, because it's something I genuinely enjoy, genuinely love. And the problem that comes with that genuine love and enjoyment is an entitlement, because when you feel close to something, as I do with Masters, having grown up with it, you feel like everything should be dedicated toward you, what you want. And that's not the case, and it takes some getting over that, because yes, obviously older collectors like myself are interested in these and want to buy them, but it's also to try to introduce the brand and the line to a younger generation. And it's hard to remember that sometimes, because you want everything to be what you remember, what you like, in whatever style it is that you want. That leads to a bit of entitlement, which is completely ridiculous. But we're going to take a look at this today. So this is He-Man Wave 1, and one of my favorite things about Masters of the Universe has always been the packaging, and that's probably a big reason why I'm a mint on card collector today, is because I've always loved the packaging. And on a basic figure like this, you have the background where it looks like he's bursting out of it, the Masters logo popping big right out of it. It's action-packed. There's a lot to get there. And the same with the vehicles and play set of yesteryear. The artwork that would accompany those boxes put in your mind the fact that these battle scenes were ready-made, and you could jump into it with that imagination, with those pictures fresh in your head, and live out your battle scenes right on your bedroom floor, as I did with my dad. My dad would get down on the floor, even though he had no idea who any of these characters were, but he would be, hey, I'm the Skeleton Man, and we'd have a good time. I had a pretty good childhood. So right off the bat, the packaging, we have the burst up on top, new for 20, which is reminiscent of the old new burst on the vintage line that carry a premium with them today. If you look to buy some online or through eBay, figures that have the new on the top of the card do carry a premium on the resale market. And I have one here, for example. This is a vintage Snout Spout. I have it in a Zolo case, but if you see right here, it has the new burst. And I do not have a vintage He-Man mint on card. I wish I did. A little bit pricey right now. I have collected about a dozen or so vintage mint on card figures. I'm always looking for more, you never know. But just to compare it, you see the similarities in the cards, in the packaging right now. Very cool, obviously I like that. On the He-Man figure today, it says modern posing and retro play. And it's telling you straight up, hey, it's He-Man, but it's new, it's updated, it's fresh, it's got articulation in places they didn't even know existed in 1981 when these figures started coming out. And that's pretty sweet. And on the back, we get a nice piece of artwork. We've got the rest of the wave displayed on the back carding. The Heroic Warriors, He-Man, Teela, Man-at-Arms, the Evil Warriors, Skeletor, Evil-Lyn, and Beastman. We've got the directions on how to fit the power sword in his hand and how to use his snapping, twisting waist, which is very similar to the back of the vintage cards, which was something they gave us as well there. It showed you other figures in the line, gave you a little bit of directions, and of course the best piece is the artwork along the top that gave you a little scene, a little display, and carried with it a quick little bio. For He-Man, this one says, with the mystical power sword, the mighty He-Man protects Eternia from the forces of evil. And it's him out in front of Castle Grayskull, and that is really cool. And the artwork on these, it's got a little gloss to it, which is very, very pretty to look at. So I do enjoy the way they did the packaging on this. If you notice, it is packed with a mini comic, which is exactly like the vintage figures came, and that was because they needed a way to explain who these characters were, because if you remember, the vintage toy line came out before the Filmation cartoon was ever released. So they used mini comics as a way to explain who these characters were and what their motivations were. Here we go. We're gonna open up a figure, and this hurts me because, oh man, I don't like opening figures at this stage in my life. I'm gonna try to open it as neat as possible. Kind of made a mess. Wish I would have done better. First thing we pull out, we've got the mini comic. Beast Barrage. It's got some cool updated He-Man artwork. 2, 4, 6, 6-page comic. I will read it when I get the chance because I do enjoy the mini comics. And I actually like the artwork that's inside here. It's new, it's an updated style. It's not exactly identical to the vintage designs, but it does look pretty cool just looking at it quick. And I think I will enjoy these because I did enjoy the mini comics as a kid, and I love the hardcover edition from Dark Horse Comics. They put out with all the original mini comics in a hardcover edition. We will pull this out, get rid of our bubble, and here we are. He-Man, he's got a rubber band holding him in place that we will not be able to snap because I'm not strong enough. We've got his weapons pack. There we go. So now I'm strong enough. Now I have the power. So he's rubber banded in there. At first, the first thing I notice is the face, because the He-Man head sculpt on this figure, I'm not the biggest fan of. I know there's been a lot of complaining online about it. It's just, it's not the best. I wish it was. I mean, I don't expect it to be identical to the original He-Man figure. It feels good in your hand. It's got the nice twisting waist. He doesn't snap, or maybe he's just he needs to be loosened up a little bit. All my joints are pretty sturdy. I feel like they did a good job, and it doesn't feel cheap. That's what I'm really looking for. It doesn't feel like a cheap figure. It feels like a nice figure that you can kind of bounce around a little bit for playability. The chest harness design, almost exact to the original, with a cool little feature on the back for him to hold a weapon that you are not using at the time. So we will open up the weapons pack, and he comes with a power sword, an axe, and a shield, just like he did in the original. First glance, the color of the sword, or I should say half a power sword. Remember, He-Man only has half. The coloring is different on the weapons. That's a little bit weird. I don't know if I like that. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's not a make or break thing for me, but it is kind of weird to look at. The sword slips nicely into the back of his harness. He has a place to hold it, which is nice because you always like weapon storage on your figures. So we will keep the sword in the back. I'm gonna pop the axe in his hand. We got a little tight on the hand here. Okay, there we go. Now he's got his axe. How do you put the shield on? Okay, you put the shield through his hand, and this should snap onto the bicep. Oh, it does so pretty easily. So now we've got our He-Man figure. I like the figure in general. I don't know if I love it. The head sculpt really takes a lot away for me because I really don't like this head sculpt. I really don't. It's just not good, and I know Mattel has heard that from a lot of people, and supposedly they will be altering the head sculpt for the future Battle Armor He-Man release, supposedly. One of the big features of these new figures is that you can pull out all the joints to allow for all sorts of weird customizations. Let's see how hard that is. So you see the head pops right off. Should be the same with the arms. They pop right off, and you will be able to mix and match all your body parts for customizations. For me, that's like not a big thing at all. I really don't care about such things. The boots pop off, and now you've just got pieces. It's cool in a way. If you're a customizer, I assume you love this kind of stuff. But for me, like, I'm just not into that world, that customizer world. I buy a figure, I buy the figure for what it is and what it's, I guess, supposed to be. It's a nice feature to have, I suppose, because it allows you just more options. So, I mean, if they're going to give it to you, it's nothing to complain about. It's just one of those things that doesn't make much of a difference to me. All my pieces kind of pop in and out very easily. One thing I'm not a huge fan of on this figure, and I know people will get on me about it, is the appearance of the shoulders. They just look so bulky, round, bowling ball-ish, and kind of out of place. And on this figure, I think it stands out a little bit more on this figure than it does on some of the other figures, because his arms are completely displayed, whereas some of the other figures that we will get to in this line, they have things kind of covering them up where it kind of dulls the appearance of just having them stand out as much as they do on this figure, because his harness is just going directly over his shoulders and not over this piece right here. And they just seem kind of bulky and weird. Once again, it's not something that kills the figure for me. It's just, it kind of looks a little kabuki-ish. Comparing it to the original figure, very similar in stature, in height. If you give the new He-Man a little bit of a bend into him, he kind of stands comparatively with the new figure. Obviously, mine could use a little bit of a fig bath. He looks a little dusty from being on the shelf this long. So all in all, I don't think this is a home run of a figure by any means. I mean, what's the first thing you look at is the head. So the fact that I don't like the head sculpt brings it down a little bit, but I do think it's solid, especially if they're going to be making improvements and alterations as the line goes along. I hope the line does go along for a very long time, and now I'm in a position where I can afford to buy new figures as they come out. Whereas one of my biggest things with the Classics line was that at that point in my life financially, I really wasn't in a position to be buying really awesome figures, and I love that Classics line, it's terrific. But I wasn't able to buy those figures at the time, so now if I want to go back and collect them, which I would love to, I mean, I'm definitely not in that kind of position to spend that kind of money now. I'm really happy to have this. I'm really looking forward to opening up the rest of the line. I will do so because, I mean, if you're going to do one, you might as well do them all, because there is something to be said for seeing that display of loose figures posed in battle scenes or however it is. I'm so jealous of some of you who have just absolutely incredible displays, and maybe I will have one of my own someday, especially as more vehicles come out. The Castle Grayskull is set to release in a few months, and other things like that. It could lead to some very, very beautiful displays, and hopefully one of them will be mine. Looking forward to the rest of the line, looking forward to opening up the rest of these figures. So please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel if you'd like. If you are in a position to support me further, go down in the description, maybe buy a t-shirt. That way I can keep these going, and I will see you next time.